January 6, 1995. Late at night, Philippine National Police are responding to a call from the Malate district of Manila. Something strange is in the air at the Doña Josefa apartment complex. Apartment residents complained of a strange odor, and at 11 p.m., a fire was spotted in Suite 603. The building's owner, Edith Guerrera, just called for the fire department. To Officer Aida Fariscal, watch commander in the Manila Police Department, something feels amiss. Less than a month earlier, on December 11, 1994, Philippine Airlines Flight 434 had been bombed. One passenger was killed, several were injured, and there was even a hole in the plane. But miraculously, the plane survived the blast to make an emergency landing. Pieces of the exploded bomb were traced back to Manila, but there was no known perpetrator. With this and several other bomb scares in Manila fresh on her mind, she decides to investigate. Fariscal sends her night duty officer, Patrolman Ariel Fernandez, to find out what's going on. After being gone for an hour, Fernandez returns and tells Fariscal that the fire is out. The room was full of some kind of white powder, but the two Pakistani tenants assured the fire department that they had just been careless with some fireworks. But this doesn't satisfy Fariscal, who stubbornly thinks there's more to it than that. So she decides to go there herself. Fernandez and Fariscal arrive at the apartments. Fariscal had called the building's guard, Roman Mariano, to tell him they were coming. Mariano informed her that the Pakistani tenants had gone out for the night. Once there, Fariscal peeks inside Suite 603 and is alarmed by what she finds. 4 hot plates, still in their boxes, cotton soaked in a beige chemical liquid, loops of colorful electrical wiring. This is no New Year's fireworks stash. It looks like something an action movie villain would make. Fariscal returns to the lobby when Mariano frantically gets her attention. They're coming back! The two Pakistani tenants return. Fernandez stops one of them, leading to an argument. The man says he is a commercial pilot named Ahmed Saeed, and complains to Fariscal that Fernandez just accused him of making bombs. Fariscal is not about to let this encounter escalate. She tries to calm down the situation and has Fernandez read Saeed his rights while she calls for backup. Fariscal is in the middle of her call when gunshots ring out. She turns to see Fernandez shooting after Saeed, who is making a run for it. The other tenant starts running as well. Saeed trips on a tree root, allowing Fariscal to catch up to him. Immediately, the two officers make an impromptu arrest, substituting rope for handcuffs. Saeed tries to bribe Fariscal to let him go, but she won't budge. She doesn't know what she stumbled into, but she knows it's something big. This is the story of the Bojinka plot. In the chaos of the moment, Saeed's companion had fled into the crowd, leaving only Saeed back in police custody. Fariscal drove him to the precinct, where he tried to maintain his innocence. But it wouldn't work, and he knew it. Saeed ominously told her, "There are 2 Satans that must be destroyed, the Pope and America." Fariscal had her first clue. This man was targeting the Pope. Was he planning an assassination? Pope John Paul II had an upcoming visit to the Philippines. Returning to Suite 603, she uncovered pictures of the Pope, maps of Manila plotting the route of the papal motorcade, and 2 remote-controlled pipe bombs. There was even a receipt in Saeed's name for a cassock, a clerical coat like those worn by Catholic priests. It seemed like someone, disguised as a priest, would smuggle a bomb close enough to the Pope to kill him. This was already a serious situation, warranting generals to arrive at the scene of the fire, but they were only scratching the tip of the iceberg, as the Pope wasn't even the only target. Fariscal and the local bomb squad found so much chemical material in the apartment that it couldn't possibly be for just one target. The wide array of equipment, including the 4 hot plates, indicated that the terrorists intended to mass-produce bombs. U.S. investigators were brought in to assist, But it took days for authorities to account for everything in the suite. They found stashes of acids, chemicals like ammonia and acetone, and explosives, and even instructions written in Arabic for building powerful bombs. The explosive devices that the bomb squad found were so unfamiliar that, according to the head of the CIA's Counterterrorism Center, they would be virtually undetectable by airport security measures. This raised more questions than it answered. Saeed had been caught. But who was he? And who was the other man that got away? And with so many bombs in production, who were they targeting? The suspects were not who they seemed. Passports and other documents scattered in Suite 603 hinted that Ahmed Saeed was one of many aliases for Abdul Hakim Murad, who was a licensed pilot trained in Dubai, Texas, New York, and North Carolina. Murad was a suspect in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, a terror attack which injured thousands. As for his companion, Murad confessed that he was Ramzi Youssef, already on the run from American intelligence as the mastermind behind the World Trade Center bombing. Youssef had family connections to the terrorist group Al-Qaeda and made a prolific career in terrorism. As a young man, he studied electrical engineering in the UK before joining a terrorist camp in Peshawar, Pakistan, for supporters of Osama bin Laden. There, he learned the art of bomb making, which he passed on to others like Murad. In late 1992, Youssef turned his sights to the US, thinking of bombing several Jewish neighborhoods in New York City with other terrorists. These plans morphed into the February 26, 1993 World Trade Center bombing, which Youssef masterminded. For that bombing, Ramzi and others drove a van loaded with a 1,200-pound urea nitrate bomb into the parking garage below the World Trade Center, set it off, and fled the scene. The resulting explosion failed to topple the towers, but killed 6, injured thousands, and left a gaping crater underneath the North Tower. After obtaining Youssef's computer from Suite 603, investigators pieced together an elaborate terrorist plot to incite American shock and global panic. The computer contained texts encrypted and in Arabic declaring that all people who support the US government are our targets in our future plans, and that is because all those people are responsible for their government's actions, and they support the US foreign policy, and are satisfied with it. Other texts announced the terrorists' intentions to hit nuclear targets across the US to pressure Americans to end support to Israel. In addition, a file named Bojinka contained the itineraries of 11 flights between Asia and the United States. This confused investigators initially, but was a crucial find. All of the flight plans were accompanied by the instructions, setting timer Bojinka, with dates and times following each word. The word timer seemed to line up with the materials left by the terrorists in their apartment. Not only were dozens of electronic wristwatches among the items found, but a wristwatch had also been used to set off the bomb on Philippine Airlines, Flight 434. Philippine police needed to learn more, so for 67 days, they subjected Murad to harsh interrogation. After all of this, the evidence, the interrogation, connecting all the dots, authorities got a clear picture of what they called the Bojinka plot. The Bojinka plot was an ambitious, three-phase planned attack. In the first phase, Pope John Paul II was to be assassinated while visiting the Philippines for World Youth Day, a Catholic religious festival. Fariscal had figured this out from the evidence left in Suite 603. With the assassination of the Pope as a global distraction, the next phase of the plot would involve Youssef, Murad, and 3 other terrorists placing bombs on 11 international flights heading from East Asia to the United States, the same 11 flights whose itineraries were on Youssef's computer. In the third and final phase, Murad himself would have suicide-piloted a plane into the headquarters of the United States CIA and would have ordered other American landmarks hit if he knew more trained pilots. The terrorists had been planning this for months. Murad confessed that the bombing of Philippine Airlines Flight 434 was a test by Yusef of the bombs intended to be used in the Bojinka plot. Yusef intended for the explosives to be placed above the fuselage of each plane, causing the fuel tanks to blow up when they were detonated. By a stroke of luck, the plane used for Flight 434 had a modified design, so the fuselage was not where Yusef thought it was. When the bomb went off, the fuselage was some distance away from it, protected by the structure of the plane. If the fuselage was below the bomb like Yusef expected, the flight would never have survived. Murad wasn't the only one caught up in the middle of the Bojinka plot. Yusef's computer also listed numerous phone numbers, one of which belonged to Wali Khan Amin Shah, the financier of the plot. Shah was also interrogated and admitted channeling funds from Manila women to someone named Adam Saleh, which was really an alias for Yusef. The confessions of Murad and Shah led to Yusef's eventual arrest in Pakistan in February 1995, little more than a month after he fled Fariskal in Manila. In 1998, he was sentenced by U.S. District Court Judge Kevin Duffy to life in prison plus 240 years for both the 1993 WTC bombing and the bombing of Flight 434. During the 1998 trial, Yusef accused the United States government for perpetrating the very terrorism it condemned. You call this terrorism when someone would kill innocent people or civilians in order to force the government to change its policies. Well, when you were the first one who invented this terrorism, you were the first one who killed innocent people, and you are the first one who introduced this type of terrorism to the history of mankind when you dropped an atomic bomb which killed tens of thousands of women and children in Japan, and when you killed over 100,000 people, most of them civilians, in Tokyo with fire bombings. And you killed civilians in Vietnam with chemicals, as with the so-called Orange Agent. You killed civilians and innocent people, not soldiers, innocent people every single war you went. You went to wars more than any other country in this century, and then you have the nerve to talk about killing innocent people. Duffy responded, Ramzi Youssef, you claim to be an Islamic militant. Of all the persons killed or harmed in some way by the World Trade Center bomb, you cannot name one who was against you or your cause. You did not care, just so long as you left dead bodies and people hurt. You, Ramzi Youssef, came to this country pretending to be an Islamic fundamentalist, but you cared little or nothing for Islam or the faith of the Muslims. Rather, you adored not Allah, but the evil that you yourself have become. And I must say that as an apostle of evil, you have been most effective. He recommended that Youssef spend much of his life sentence in solitary confinement. Youssef remains to this day at ADX Florence, serving out his life sentence. Murad is also serving a life sentence at USP Victorville. The Bojinka plot was never executed. 6 years after it was foiled, however, the 9/11 terrorist attacks shook the United States and the world.
So you have no idea right now?
I have another one. Another plane just hit. Right? Oh my God.
Seeming to incorporate many tactics from the Bojinka plot as well as the earlier 1993 World Trade Center bombing. This time, the idea of hijacking planes to suicide bomb targets was manifested in the planes that hit the Pentagon and the Twin Towers, resulting in the complete destruction of the latter. Some former members of Philippine National Police and other Philippine intelligence agencies were horrified by the event, arguing that the United States should have taken their warnings about the Bojinka plot more seriously. United States intelligence, however, maintains that the Bojinka plot showed no connections to what would become the 9/11 attacks. Regardless, the lives saved by Fariskal cannot be overstated. Over 4,000 would have likely perished in the 11 flights targeted for bombing. For her stubborn determination to uncover the truth, in turn, foiling the Bojinka plot. When Philippine authorities responded to an apartment chemical fire, none of them could have imagined the scope of what they had walked in on. It would have been easy to shrug it off. But it was the persistence of one officer, Ida Fariskal, which may have saved the lives of the Pope and thousands of others.